Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are on the planet. Welcome to Office Hours, the Soul of Business edition. I'm Blaine Bartlett, and my co-host today, Rhett Power.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Could not be better, honestly, outside of a little health hiccup. But other than that, I'm doing fine. Yeah.
You look good.
I'm upright.
That's right.
Yeah. David Meltzer is not going to be making it today. David is tied up with another meeting. So you've got Rhett and myself and our incredible lineup of guests today. And speaking of which, our first guest, Dr. Kidd, and I'm going to get this name right. I swear I'm going to get this name right. Dr. Kidd Parchariyanan. How'd I do?
Perfect.
Yeah, okay. And you're coming to us out of Bangkok today, right?
Right. I'm in Bangkok.
Yeah. So wherever we are in the world, this is good. You are the founder and managing partner of CX Ventures, but I think, that's, we can talk about CX, but I'm more interested at this point in time in the work that you're doing around driving GDP growth in Southeast Asia. I mean, the economic viability of that region, I think in today's world is one of the most singularly important things that we could be, paying some attention to, because geopolitically, there's a lot of stuff going on. And as this part of the world starts to develop, it starts shouldering a lot more responsibility for some of the health and well-being of the planet. Not just the people on the planet, but the planet itself. So why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, give us just a little bit of, your background as a medical doctor, but, that's not where you're focused right now. What was the transition point, and why is your work around this economic development process so important to you?
Thanks so much. I mean, before I'm an entrepreneur, I was a medical doctor, as you mentioned. Yeah, and when I was in the med school, that's the whole thing started, right? Because I was sitting in the classroom using Nokia black and white screen. I'm sure you remember, like Snake Game on Nokia 20 years ago, right? My biggest pain that time is that I want to trade the stock in the classroom. And the only way to do that is to get out of the classroom, make a phone call to the brokerage firm to buy and sell stock. My teacher said, "Kid, you're going to be a doctor. Why don't you focusing on study?" I said, "I'm sorry. By the time the class finished at 5 p.m., the stock market already closed. What should I do?" Yeah, I turned to my friends who engineers, say, "Hey, let's build something." We built the first mobile stock trading apps for Thailand. Today, that application is #1 in the country, just like Robinhood or E-Trade in the US. So I made a huge mistake as a first-time entrepreneur. I should have sold the company yesterday, right? I sold it 20 years ago, even before iPhone came out. So that's just super soon, like too soon, right? So so that's why. I mean, after that, I tried to see what is the next big thing, like coming to Thailand and Southeast Asia, right? And then I thought one thing, as you mentioned, the Southeast Asia economy is growing. Like we have 600 million people, right? And I thought, okay, yeah, but if you're looking into the economy, is mostly driven by the big government and also conglomerates. We're not the tech-driven country like in the US or Europe. Yeah, we are brick and mortar. We most of the time focusing on tourism or kind of like the traditional kind of like non-tech things, right? Yeah, but and that is opportunity because I thought because I love tech, how I be able to weaving into the tech so that I can kind of like making the real impact, right? So yeah, so around 9 years ago, started a company called Rise, RISE here, right? And our mission, yeah, we want to help raise 1% of GDP through the collaboration from the startup from US and Europe, bring them to Southeast Asia, but then bring them to working with the big corporate Fortune 500 companies in this region. Because those Fortune 500, many of them don't have their own technology or innovation, right? They need some technology from startup. Yeah, so that I thought they can work together so that both can prosper together. Yeah, so that's the idea. But then this idea, after I doing this for a while, yeah, I thought there's also the big missing gap, right? Yeah, which is the deep tech company blockchain, AI, biotech, robotics. Many of them are not here in Southeast Asia. Yeah, even though the economy is growing, but when you look at the wave of technology, right, it's starting from e-commerce, payment company like PayPal, right? So these are kind of like the foundational, right? Things that happening. We also have that too, but when we're talking about deep tech, when we're talking about the next generation AI, these kind of thing, we don't have, right? So that's why, in order to help economy of the region, we set up CX Venture in the US, our VC fund, right? So deep tech fund, early stage, pre-seed, seed, Series A fund, so that when we invest and partner up with a US-based company, when they grow up and they want to expand to Asia, we gonna be that good friend, yeah, great friend to help scaling the technology to Southeast Asia, and that and with Rise and CX is come together and then be able to drive 1% of GDP growth, right? Yeah, so that's a synergistic effect, yeah, among the two.
That's fascinating. Two things. I appreciate your global development goals button or pin right there. And two, I got to tell you a story about probably about 25 years ago. I was with USAID, and I took an R&R to Thailand, and I found that I was down in southern Thailand, and I found this little business. It was a dive shop and bar, and it had a couple lodges, and the guy was selling it. And I remember sitting on the beach at that particular moment and saying, you know what, I think I'm going to buy this. And so I started talking to the guy about it. And ultimately, my wife just said, you know what, if you do that, you're doing that alone. So I didn't buy that dive shop and lodge and stuff on the beach, which I don't know, maybe I regret not doing. But I love Thailand and I love Southeast Asia, and I think we lost Dr. Kim. Yeah,
Hey,
There he
I
is.
lost you for a few seconds. Sorry about
there
that.
we are. But my question is, in terms of attracting those kind of businesses to the region, what have been the challenges that you're facing? And is the workforce there ready for those kind of big companies? Talk about that a little bit, and some of the challenges you're facing, and how you're facing those challenges.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, right? I mean, yeah, the first thing is, I think, like ease of doing business, right? So even though we're talking about Southeast Asia, 10 countries, all these 10 countries, they are different. They are kind of like, some is the ease of doing business is really good, right? Some is kind of still developing. So you need to kind of like understand like which market you want to tackle first, right? And why, right? So are there kind of like these type of customer that you want to chasing for, right? So that's I think number one, that you need to understand the market really well, right? The second thing, right, is about regulatory, right? Let's say we're talking about healthcare, like as a doctor, right? Medical device, I mean like the new therapy, these things, how to navigate in the Food and Drug Administration in each country, right? So that's also different. Yeah. So and the third thing I think is about how you be able to understand the market quickly. Probably you need someone like us, like incubator, accelerator, who might be able to incubate you and then point you to the right direction, or you have the local partner, right, who understand the market really well, and then using them, you don't need to set up your own office just yet, but using them as a distribution channel, right, and then to test the market first before you come in 100%. Yeah, so that's kind of like the three tips that I think yeah, I have, yeah, for any entrepreneur that would like to tap into Southeast Asia.
And it's, one of the things that I'm fascinated with, and this is not so much in the form of a question, just an observation, is the way you started was noticing that there was something that was missing for you. And so you developed this app early on, 20 years ago, using the Nokia. I mean, and I worked with Nokia for about 12 years as an external consultant to them. So I was familiar with how difficult it was to actually do. It's kind of like, I mean, it was an amazing product at the time. The emergence of Southeast Asia as a what's the word I'd use here? Kind of a seat of innovation. Yeah, most people aren't thinking of Southeast Asia in those terms at this point in time, and it truly is. I mean, the education, the entrepreneurial zeal, everything that is needed to actually fuel a vibrant economy is present in Southeast Asia. And what I love about what you're doing with CX is that you're beginning to handle some of the, as Rhett pointed out here, some of the diversity and some of the challenges because of such a broadly diverse, which is also one of the advantages, I think, is that broad diversity. But you've got to be able to navigate that well. So CX, I think, is doing an incredible job with that, Dr. Kidd, and I want to just thank you for being on the show. David would love to have you back on the show when we can get him to actually, show up and be present with this. And that's not a knock. I mean, he's got other things that he's doing right now, but we want to be sure that we get you connected with him as well. So you can learn more about what CX is up to by going to cxventures.vc. Now, I haven't seen that .vc before. I love that. We've got all kinds of innovation going on here. And we'll see you on the next show. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Kidd.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the next one. See you guys soon.
Oh, interesting stuff. That dive shop and bar. I remembered I was looking at one as well, and it was actually in Phuket.
Okay.
In Thailand. One of the very first times I went there when I was living in Japan at the time, I just did a little R&R holiday out of there and went, and found this little dive bar and I don't mean dive bar in the sense of dive and bar sort of a thing. I'm like, that's a great mix. Yeah, I think I can get behind this.
I didn't even ask him why he wanted to sell it. I didn't care.
But your wife had more sense than both of us combined, I think.
Probably so. And that's just that at the time, I think, I probably still don't have any common sense. So that's all right.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Okay. Well, speaking about marketing, speaking about acquisition, speaking about success, and then things kind of going sideways. Our next guest, Paul Powell, who's the founder of paulpowell.com, has got a pretty good track record around this. Yeah, he and David, I think, are kindred spirits in one sense here. David having lost $100 million and having to rebuild and restart, and which actually became kind of the foundational piece of where he's at today. One of the most widely recognized successful businessmen on the planet. Paul, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Paul, and speaking of smart, Paul's probably smarter than me too.
Listen, I remember sitting on the back deck on those steps with you at the firewalk, Rhett. So
I know.
I learned a lot in a very short period of time. So
well, thank you, brother.
Yeah, great to be here, guys.
Love having you here. You're looking at doing a number of different things here. One is the one lever, and I'm very interested. And I know Rhett has got a lot more background on this than I do, given that I'm just now meeting you for the first time here. I've heard about you, but I'm very interested in what one lever is and how you're actually working with it.
Here's what, and you mentioned, I've been up, down. I've gone, I was 20 years in the investment world. After that, I got into trucking in a family business, and that almost got me. Came out of that, opened some stretch zone franchises. And what I saw along the way was, and it only was really in hindsight that I realized it, but there's always one lever that is the highest ROI thing that we can do. Yeah. And as entrepreneurs, and really it's just whether we're entrepreneurs, we're executives, we're just management, we have 1,000 options every day. I think entrepreneurs are almost the worst because it's sort of like you're every seat on the bus, right? Do I work on this? Do I work on marketing? Do I fulfillment? Do I work on systems? Okay, let's just talk about marketing. I've got a million things I could do, and so what happens is I think it's almost like overload. And many people use a shotgun approach, right? If we think about marketing as just one area, well, we try this, we try that, we try that. It's a whole lot of spaghetti on the wall. And really, it's hoping these things will work, as opposed to saying, what is the one thing that would change everything? Now, one easy one that's easy to understand is for salespeople that are looking for clients versus referral sources. Now, this is a super simple example, and it doesn't fit everywhere, but I think it makes the, in fact, I was having this conversation with a client 2 days ago. All the effort you're putting into acquiring a client, what if you put that much time, energy, and money into acquiring a referral source? Now, in their instance, a client pays one time. It's a high ticket item, but it's really a one-time purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so we spend all of this time, energy, and money. We get one client, and we're getting these sort of dripping through. But imagine if that, instead of one client, it was one referral source, and all of a sudden, then this is completely different now, right? Now, all of a sudden, you have a completely different situation where, and sorry about that, my wife will shoot me if I get her on camera. But now, all of a sudden, you have a completely different business model, right? Now you're not acquiring clients, you're acquiring referral sources that can then give you a lifetime of clients. And then you're going to spend your time nurturing those referral sources just like you would nurturing clients. But that's an easy thing. That's one lever that would be much more powerful and have a significantly higher ROI than the other. And we're faced with those opportunities every day across our lives. And I don't think it even matters. And if you think about it, it doesn't even matter. It's not just business. This is a concept that goes across our lives in every area. Let's just take a relationship with your spouse. There's one thing that you could do that would mean more than others. Now, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people, they may be burning the candle at both ends, right? They're working, they're already stressed. They're already pushed to the max. How do I balance all of these things? Balance is certainly a challenge for people in the entrepreneurial space and business space, and I'm sure every other space. But there's probably one thing that would mean more than the rest to the spouse. Let's just say it's coming home and having dinner at 6 p.m. That's sort of a non-negotiable. Well, you could do a lot of other things for your spouse, and they wouldn't add up to what that one thing does. And so it's really the same thing in business. And that's what I focus on. I've looked back over my career, the stretch zones. It was the funniest thing. The one lever in the stretch zone franchises, and we were successful in those. We were very successful in those. Was phone calls. And we could have worked on leads. We could have worked on a number of other areas. But when we got into this franchise, what we realized is you need a lot of phone calls to follow up with leads to get them in for a free opportunity to experience the service. So it wasn't more leads. We had an adequate number of leads. It wasn't a higher close ratio. We had a good close ratio. So these are all options. But the one thing we needed people contacted significantly more. That turned into a call center, and it turned into a very successful stretch zone, and then a secondary business that came out of that, providing that service for other people. So there's just always one thing that's stronger, and that's what a lever is about, right? We get on this end, and we pick up, and we can pick up a tremendous amount of weight with a little bit of effort with the right lever.
Yeah, Archimedes would be proud of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Paul, I want to dig into that a little bit too. Pulled out marketing as an example, and I think that's a great example because we often flail around, like you said, throw spaghetti against the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah.
How do we get to that one lever? How do we know what that is? Because sometimes that's not intuitive, right? I mean, let's take social, let's take marketing. Is it? I mean, you. Maybe you're better suited in your brain to sort of determine what that lever is. But I think a lot of people struggle with what is it?
Yeah.
Right? How do we get?
I'm actually working on a book to lay this all out. And this is one thing I talk about with organizations. The first thing is you have to lay out what the options are, right? What all can we be working on right now? What all are we working on right now? And you begin to sort of categorize those or prioritize those. And then we look at which one multiplies versus adds. That's one of the tests. There's 3 tests, but one of them is Does it multiply or does it add? If it adds, that's great. But as we know, more energy to add an equal amount, we can't scale with that, right? There's no leverage in that. That's simply, I can lift 100 pounds, so let me lift 100 pounds.
I do that over and over.
Is I can lift 100 pounds and it moves 1,000 pounds. And so we look for the activities that will multiply. And honestly, so many times, it's difficult to see this forest for the trees, right? We're in it. How do I stop, pull back, and then look at the things that can change? And some of this is out of the box thinking, right? If you've probably many times you haven't even thought about it, right? Because you haven't applied ideas from other industries. Some of the best ideas come from other industries, right? If we take, you take an idea, I mean, the assembly line. When Ford came up with that changed the world because everyone, oh, that's a better way to make our widget. And everybody began to adopt that strategy. And then the productivity across the United States went up, right? Probably across the world. Yeah. Because of a single concept that he figured out a better way to do something. So one way is to look at other industries and bring things in. How do other industries do this? That's a great first step. But at the end of the day, it's all about looking at our options and seeing which one of these is going to move the lever most. If this happened exactly like we wanted it to, what would be the outcome? And if it's only an equal, weight, okay, so, and this is the way we think. Our salespeople are doing this. If we increase their close ratio, we get here. Okay. Maybe yes, maybe no. Probably only incremental, right? Okay. If we get more leads, well, that just means you're just pushing more people through the pipeline. Well, that's not really it, right? If we doubled our leads, we would double our outcome. That's not a lever. That's simply pushing more through. Okay. But, and let me give you some examples. Dropbox. Do y'all remember when Dropbox first came out? Oh, man, this is the greatest thing in the world. I mean, all these files on my computer. Remember when we had to move computers and we had to put all that stuff from one to the other and it was just a headache. So Dropbox, how did Dropbox scale? They said, hey, refer us to a friend. We'll give you some free storage.
Oh. Yep. Let's get off our back, right?
60% growth rate.
Yeah.
What did Facebook do? They said, hey, I think it was 10 friends in 7 days or 7 friends in 10 days. Skyrocketed. What does Netflix do? Netflix wants us to do what? Keep our eyes on the screen, right? What did they go? What did they start doing? They made series. Everything is a series. We can't leave in the middle of a series. We got to pay next month, right? And it was binge-worthy series. And the second thing is it's curated content. Hey, you liked that. You'll probably like this. I don't have to go look for stuff I like. I've never even heard of this. They just dropped it 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But and then also, have you noticed, do we click the button anymore or does it just start?
It starts.
Just starts. Does it
start?
Friction.
Does it start with the title? Or does it start with the hook?
Commercial.
Hook.
Hook.
Just
the idea of being more effective rather than busy.
4 or 5 minutes in, all of a sudden we get the intro. And then
it starts with a commercial of something else you might like too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that's the thing about a lever.
Yeah.
A lever changes everything.
Yeah, and that is a mindset shift. So if you're speaking about levers for an entrepreneur, your mindset is probably the most exponential thing that you can begin to tweak if you pay attention to it, because it will box you in or it will illuminate different possibilities.
Absolutely, Blaine.
Yeah. So Paul Powell at paulpowell.com.
No, you can't go paulpowell.com or you'll find a lawyer in Las Vegas that beat me to it by 6 months. So Paul Powell, you got me. Nice job.
Paul-Powell.com.
Yeah, paul-powell.com is one. Paul Powell Marketing. You can find me on LinkedIn. You know how it goes.
Yeah, all of that. Paul, it's been great having you here. I love the idea of just a single lever. It moves away from being busy to being effective. And I mean, if you want to be effective in your life, if you want to grow your organization, you can't be busy. You got to be focused and
can't be scattered. Have to be focused. Can't be busy. That's right. Have to be effective.
Busy will kill you.
If you need some help with that book, let me know. Because love to help you with that. Because that should be out in the world.
You just signed up, man. I'll hit you up.
Hey, there you go.
Hey guys, Thank you so much.
Okay.
I hope you guys have an awesome day. And tell Dave I said hello.
You got it. Thanks,
You got
Paul.
it. Yeah, man.
Wow, good stuff. I I'd forgotten all about Archimedes. It's weird how this stuff just kind of pops out of my head. It's kind of yeah. 16 years old learning about Archimedes. I don't think I've ever mentioned his name in the last 60 years.
My philosophy professor in college would be proud.
Yeah. And speaking of being proud here, we've got Jay Williams coming up. And we're looking here at the entrepreneurial pivot, how he went from being established in real estate to starting over in beverages. I mean, it's kind of like, how'd we make that switch?
Yeah, who does that, right?
Yeah, who does that? So welcome to the show, Jay. And I'll just kind of tee this up. David's not here. He got tied up in another meeting. So you've got, not the next best. You've got the best.
Perfect.
And David would be the next best coming in.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, just speaking of that entrepreneurial pivot, what compelled that move? Because, that is not a natural flip. And most people will get trapped in what they're doing and what they're doing well and go, well, okay, let's see how I can leverage this more effectively. But, this is a completely different, okay, there's a whole different world over there. I'm going to jump into that one.
Yeah. It's definitely not your everyday pivot. I can attest to that. For me, I had this, I guess, sort of behind the curtains thought process going on for years about different creative outlets that I could explore from a business perspective. And, real estate is a fantastic career, and there's all kinds of, creative components to it. But it's not really, something that, at least for someone like myself, that was fulfilling enough. And, I'm not as young as I used to be. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, well, if not now, then when? Let's just do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Worst thing that can happen is I just, completely bomb and I got to go back to real estate or something else. And that's okay. But worse than that, would be the regret of not actually going after it. I'd rather have the regret of failure than the regret of inaction.
Yeah. The idea of sustainable success, the way that I define it in the work that I do with my clients is developing the capacity to continuously start over.
Yeah.
And if I'm really kind of organizing around that, I will find myself in unknown territory eventually.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's a great point, because some people look at that as something incredibly scary, and, they fear that the unknown. Maybe because I'm a little crazy, I kind of like it. I like the thought process of starting something and creating it, and just, part of what I love about entrepreneurship is just the whole thought process of creating something out of nothing. I find it fun. I know other people don't look at it the same way, but if you've got that type of mindset where you can kind of handle those, things that come at you from an entrepreneurial standpoint, then, you might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, you speak my language. I don't know how many times I've said, I'd rather die trying than dying with the regret. I don't know why that's a motivator for me, but I get it, because I want to sit on my front porch in Charleston and when I'm 85 and say, you know what, I did that. Well, that didn't go so well, but I did it. And I do not want that to haunt me, I think, is what really. So I get it. I enjoy, like you, sort of the uncomfortableness. Talk about that we have a lot of, I'd say maybe first time, maybe not young, but maybe first time entrepreneurs that watch this program. Give us some things that you've learned as you've, moved into the unknown territory. Yeah. What are some of your big takeaways? And
Sure. Yeah. No, I could talk about this all day. So I think, I start with the fact that a lot of people get stuck. The old analysis paralysis. They get stuck and worried about the plan and the business plan and all of the sort of future planning. And while there's certainly a lot of value to that, sometimes you just got to jump in there, get in the mud, and figure it out.
I got to stop you. I got to stop you real quick. My first business plan was 637 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a full-time job just to read it.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, it all depends on the type of business, of course, right? There different businesses require different types of planning, and I'm all for planning, but I also know that oftentimes, whether your business plan is 5 pages or 600, within about a month, a lot of times you're throwing that in the trash anyway, because you're having to adapt to whatever's in front of you that day. And so planning is fantastic. And I would never advise someone not to have a plan, but you have to be ready for the real plan, which is the one that you don't expect. And so from a mindset standpoint, when others are thinking about going forward in a new, endeavor, I just think you got to start. And some of us, me, I have this almost uncomfortable level with risk. I feel very confident. I actually don't feel smarter than everybody else. In fact, I feel dumber than everybody else, but I have this innate belief in myself that if I'm part of it, I can figure things out. And also I can hire people smarter than me to help me figure it out. And at the end of the day, if you don't have that belief, then you're going to face a lot of obstacles, because it requires a lot of resilience. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure, but it's fun as hell if you do it right.
Yeah. And
you have to wait. You have to wait. I'm sorry, Blaine.
No, go ahead.
You have to wait until it's ready to do something.
I don't think so personally. I think that, today is always the best day, in my opinion. Tomorrow is the day too late, because you don't know if you're ready. And by the way, sometimes you may not be ready, but that's also a good lesson to learn. Maybe if you just start something and you realize, okay, I wasn't ready for this, but now I know what to expect next time, then you put yourself in a position where the next time you decide to do something, now you kind of understand, what the game is, and you're better, prepared to play.
Yeah, that's, I think, a really succinct description of what Steve Jobs went through when he was ousted from Apple. And then said, what do I need to learn here? He came back, and then the rest was history. Yeah. And I want to put one thing in perspective here, Jay, because at the front end of the introduction to you, I mentioned, you transitioned from a successful career in real estate and moved into this beverage space. And I want to actually, have you hold the can up here. Freebird Southern Spring Water. This is what it's all about here. Yeah, I love the label on this. But what people don't know is that what you walked away from was something that you had built that was valued at over $1 billion with a B, $1 billion real estate career. I'm going to go do this. It's kind of like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, first of all, I love the Steve Jobs story, and I've read his book. And I love the whole, and he had a little bit of a different way of doing things. But by the way, if I'm a tenth of as successful as Steve Jobs was, I'll be quite happy. But yeah, you have to be able to adjust and adapt. That's part of the process. That no entrepreneur goes into any endeavor knowing exactly what's going to happen. Most of the time, you have maybe contingency plans, but for the most part, you're going to have to figure it out, because the road's going to curve in ways that you didn't expect. And if you're not prepared for that, then your chances of success are pretty low. And I think a lot of times what people do is they panic. They get overwhelmed, and all of a sudden it's sort of the drama comes into play. And I'm sort of the opposite. I don't know why, but I'm sort of calm in those circumstances. And I understand that, when you're in a big boy business, you got to make big boy decisions. But I also know that I need to take a breath, think about it, and make sure that I'm making the right choice. And by the way, plenty of times it's not the right one, but I'll have another one to make an hour later. So maybe I'll get it better, do a better job that time.
Great. Folks, you can find out more about Freebird Southern Spring Water at drinkfreebird.com. And check it out. Check it out. This is a way to actually find sustenance in a fun sort of a way. Part of what we're looking at doing here, and what Jay is actually wanting to do, is bring the Southern experience and the hospitality, all of the stuff that is kind of embedded in that whole notion of the South and what it means. So, absolutely. Jay, thanks for being such a great guest. We'll have you back when David's available, and we'll get you back on another show here as well.
Sounds good.
As a Southern boy that grew up in Charleston, can you play Freebird? Can you play it on the guitar?
You know what? I've tried. Guitar is one of my that's one of the things in life that I've tried so many times. I can't do it, but I love it. So,
there you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Great show. Very diverse. Very diverse.
Yeah. For sure.
So, in the spirit of the show here, what's your takeaway today?
I loved the lever. I think that's really, it's got me thinking about things, and it's a really good, really something that, finding that lever and pulling on that and focusing on the stuff that works and doubling down on that stuff that works, and everything else, is a waste of time. So yeah, something to think about. I may have to write something on that. I really like
that. No, I actually, that's kind of where I was going to go as well. And I think all three of our guests actually spoke to the lever in some way, shape, or form here that made sense to them. With Dr. Kidd, it's kind of like, okay, I've got an idea here, and I'm going to go develop an app. What's the lever that will make the difference? And certainly, Paul has defined the lever in a way that is, I think, singularly unique. And I love the whole Archimedes principle about applying it to business. What's going to be the multiplier, not just the additional piece that we can add to it. And then with Jay, I think the lever for him is, I've got this confidence in myself to be able to pull off just about anything that I try. And that's what I'm going to go run with right now. So I'm going to just echo what you're saying here, Rhett. I think notice what we're noticing. Yeah, because attention follows, or energy follows attention. And if I'm paying attention to a lot of stuff that is only additive, I'm only going to get an additive improvement. If I'm starting to notice what's the multiplicity, what's the multiplier here, I'm going to start pulling a lever in a different way.
That is perfect. That is so right, and that might be that's really good way you summed that up. That's beautiful.
Trained professional, do not try this at home. Folks, you've been listening to the Office Hours Solo Business Edition. Your co-host today, myself, Blaine Bartlett, and my incredibly talented and erudite co-host, Rhett Power. Rhett, I love working with you. I love having you kind of in harness with me on this, for sure, and having me in harness with you on this. I think we do a pretty good job. He said,
I'm gonna have to put erudite on my LinkedIn profile now.
Put erudite on there. That'll work. So, folks, we'll have David back on another edition of the Office Hours with David Meltzer. I've got solo business on my head today. I don't know. It's all kinds of stuff going on here. So check out the other Office Hours shows. We do, I think, 3 a week right now, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And David's got his regular stuff on Friday. So join at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern for his free training. And that happens every Friday. And you can find out more about that at 949-298-2905. And you can get a free copy of his latest book. And until next time, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next edition. Take care.